Hello again, everyone. I'm Mark Mazzaferro, and no, you're not having deja vu. We had a little technical issue, so for the sake of those who are just now tuning in or got cut off from the first attempt, we're just going to start from the very beginning. So, as I said, I'm Mark Mazzaferro. I'm the Communications and Media Officer, and with us, as always, is Fire Chief Chris Concepcion. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Mark?
Doing well now that we're back on the air. So let's start with our daily update of numbers and cases, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. So the numbers as of 4:30 p.m. Yesterday afternoon was that the cases increased in the Solano County by 1. So we're now at 141. Active cases are 25 in all of Solano County. And then in Vacaville, the cases stayed at 24 and still 2 deaths for the entire county for the entire time.
Yeah,
So those are the numbers.
So our numbers are relatively low or not growing as much as some might have expected or anticipated.
Right, yeah. Although the number of people that have tested have grown by quite a bit.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so
I mean, it went up over 100 from yesterday, and yet only one case was
additional case.
confirmed. So, as we said earlier, that's 1%. See, I remember basic math.
Yes.
So it's good news. All right. Well, let's just jump into the questions and comments. And again, we apologize. Bear with us. The question is, when did you and I become doctors?
Well, I think that's a disclaimer that we have to put there. You know, some people had asked that question yesterday, actually a couple of days in a row, and with the subject matter that we're discussing. And we have never claimed to be doctors or PhDs, medical doctors of any sort. We get all of our information, and I'm immersed in this all day, every day, and get information from the CDC, California Department of Public Health, Solano County Public Health, and we try to give it out to our residents in the interest of putting as much information as we can out there and answering their questions. But no, I haven't even played a doctor on TV, so.
And the folks who work for these organizations, for example, Solano County, Dr. Bella, I don't even try his last name. He's a doctor. He's qualified, right?
Yes, Dr. Balam Atchison, and we talk to him on at least a weekly basis. I have a conference call with him and get to ask some of the questions actually that come from the community and some of the questions that we have here from the city. And Dr. Matias is a medical doctor, and he's our public health officer here in Solano County. So a very good source of information that we actually try to put out to the community every time that I talk to them or anyone talk to them. We try to get that information out to our community.
Yeah, and in hindsight, it's probably a fair question. If we're going to sit here and talk about antibody testing and viruses, et cetera.
Sure.
Sure. What qualifies us to have that discussion?
Right, exactly.
But like you said, and as I've said in the past, we aren't qualified to comment specifically about the ins and outs of viral testing, et cetera, but we can certainly share information we receive from experts.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's all we're trying to do.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of antibody testing, you are kind of knowledgeable about this subject, aren't you?
Well, I'm not. I don't claim to be an expert. But one of the questions, yesterday was, what do you know about antibody testing? And the interesting fact is, when I was in college, I actually worked in a lab and co-authored a published paper in the Journal of Infectious Diseases actually on antibody testing and the test that they use we were studying at the time, we were studying strep throat, but the test that they use, which is the enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, is the same test that they use to find antibodies for COVID-19. So while I am not an expert, I do have some experience in it, somewhat.
Well, you certainly have more than I do. What is that test called?
Well, it's called ELISA for short.
ELISA.
Enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay.
I mean, okay.
That.
Wow. So there you go, folks. There is a level of knowledge about some of these topics, and I certainly appreciate it. All right. Another good question that's come up, and it's kind of a logical question. The first time I saw it, I kind of went, Then you started thinking about it. Sure, makes sense why someone would ask this question, and that is, during the lull in traffic throughout our city, why aren't we doing more to repair the streets?
And the answer to that is we actually are. And so the Public Works Department, both the maintenance and engineering services, they're still going full bore. And they're taking actually advantage of this slow time, not just on the streets, but at the parks. So the parks crews are out there specifically, because softball activities have been canceled, they're reconstructing the infield and replacing the turf at Alpatch Softball Complex. Keating Park is also getting some needed field care. And then as far as the Graham Aquatic Complex, because it's closed, they're taking advantage of that. They're replacing a large pool filtration system as well as a damaged pool heater. If this was normal times, that would have been a real, a dicey thing to try to do at this time because of all of the high usage. But because it's closed, they're taking advantage of that, and our public works folks are out there doing that. And then as far as the question, as far as street maintenance, they actually are out there actively crack sealing major collectors and arterials. They're also doing some pothole repair work. And then they said in June, they actually expect to award about $5 million of major rehab projects, which will include the annual slurry seal of the residential streets and rubberized asphalt chip seal process to rehab several residential and collector streets. So Public Works is out there. They're doing a lot of work, and they're continuing with it and taking advantage of the slow times, not just the slow traffic or the lack of traffic, but as well as the slow times because of our parks are not getting as much usage, and the Graham Aquatic Center is closed.
Yeah, and it's funny because when things are normal, it's very visible because a lot of people are on the streets. The guys have blocked off lanes, et cetera, et cetera. But when there's not a lot of traffic out there, you don't see
Not a lot of people to see them working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're out there working and doing their best.
Yes.
Speaking of parks, we get this one a lot still. Yes. Park restrictions, they're not working, so why don't we just close the parks?
Well, I think they are, actually. We have had to do a lot to take the tennis nets down. We've had to take the basketball hoops or zip tie the basketball hoops in some of the places. But, I on a daily basis will actually drive the city to kind of see what's going on. And for the most part, people are actually following the social distancing and physical distancing rules. And as long as they continue to do so, we won't have to close our, we went on a heavy campaign a couple of weeks ago, as you remember, saying, please don't make us close our parks down. And I think, Vacaville's a good city, and I think generally people are listening. Do we get the ones and twos out there that are resistant to that? Yes, we do. But we're handling that through education, and our code enforcement folks and our community response unit folks are out there educating them.
Yeah. The last thing you want to do is write somebody a ticket for playing basketball at the park.
No, we don't want to do that. And as a city, the residents of Vacaville, I think, are compliant, and we thank you for your cooperation.
Right. And that kind of leads up to the next question, which is basically, the trampling of people's rights to assemble, et cetera, and what are we doing to assure that people's rights aren't being impinged upon, from any level, from our policies to essential businesses to any of that.
Yeah, so these are, and this term unfortunately gets used too many times, in my opinion, unprecedented times. Yeah. We're wading into things that have never been done in America before, and the control of people's movements have not been done since World War II, as far as I'm aware. But the good thing is the City of Vacaville has and employs. We have a city attorney, and she has two assistant city attorneys that work for her and with her. And she is part of, our city attorney is part of our daily briefings and advising us on all things legal. And that's a very big part as far as the decisions that we're making. We want to make sure that any kind of decisions that we make, have legal footing, and that we aren't, imposing on anyone's rights or anything like that.
Right, and that's an important point, is that our city attorney is an active participant in our daily briefings.
Absolutely.
For
yeah.
just that reason, to make sure we are following legal, the rules, the laws, the ordinances we have in place. And again, these are unprecedented times.
Right.
I'm not afraid to say that. It's true. In my lifetime, I've never seen anything
No,
like this.
we haven't seen those kind of things. And so, and I think that's why it's just all that much more important to make sure that we have the advice of our city attorney.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Another one that's schools tend to generate a lot of discussion, and the schools are definitely impacted by this situation. And in our discussions, my discussions with folks at the school district, they got some really good info. Do you want to share that, Chief?
Yeah, so it sounds like they're setting up a distance learning site, right? That'll be available after spring break. And you've actually created a link to that as far as on the city website to www.cityofvacaville.com/COVID-19. And it's under schools, right?
It's under schools. I also put it at the top of the page just to make sure it got a little more traction initially. But yeah, the school district is doing its best to get as much distance learning information out there as they possibly can. Listen, you had kids, I have kids.
Yes. Yeah.
We get it.
Right.
Take the issue of either having to go to work with your kids home or not being able to go to work and your kids are home. Either way,
right.
it
makes it tough. Yeah.
It's difficult, right? So,
yeah.
And again, a month ago, I doubt that our school district or any school district was prepared to do a full-out entire district online learning suite.
Right, that's a huge transition for them, and
Right.
I'm sure they're working hard at the school district.
Yeah, and I don't want to make excuses for anybody, but
No.
again, this kind of was, I don't want to say people were caught off guard, but when you're not set up to do this kind of thing initially, then yeah, it takes a little time to work it out.
Right.
And I've looked at the site, and I've both their main site and the distance learning site. They got a lot of good stuff on there, and I can only guess that it will continue to improve.
Yeah, I'm sure as time goes on, that they'll be able to improve upon all that stuff. It's a huge transition, so you got to give them time to catch up, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess the message today needs to be, and it's one that we've shared many times, cooperation and patience, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's what makes us a great city. I think we get that. I mean, you see all of the great things that are happening in the city. The good things that people are doing for others, and that makes me feel good about the place where I live and work, the city of Vacaville, and it truly is a community where people care about each other.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I live here as well, and I love living here. So
I do too. Yeah.
There's a lot of good things out there, a lot of good folks in our community. So remember, if you have any questions or comments, send them to cinfo@cityofvacaville.com. We have our website set up. Chief mentioned the address earlier. It's also scrolling on the bottom of the screen. And we apologize for our earlier technical glitch, but we managed to get back on the air. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.